Sada je 13 časova i 1 minut. Neuobičajeno kašnjenje za PlayCon, bilo koji, da li prolećni, da li zimski. Ovo je PlayCon Winter 2024 u okviru Games.con-a 2024. Ja sam Aleksandar Manja, bit ću po drugi dan, a već po 100. put vaš host na PlayConu. I naravno razgovaramo sa ljudima koji se bave pravljanjem videoigara. Iako ovo jeste sajam gde ljudi dominantno dolaze da se bave igranjem igara, da stupaju u interakciju sa cosplayerima i sa rukotvorinama i tome slično, ipak malo razgovaramo i o pravljanju videoigara kao nekom preduslovu da se uopšte bilo šta poput ovoga dešava, bilo gde. Da bismo to uradili, mi svake godine organizujemo ovaj deo programa u okviru Games.con-a gde pričamo sa ljudima koji se bave pravljanjem igara. Danas imamo sledeću petorku, kad kažem danas, mislim 24. novembra 24. godine, pošto smo juče, 23. Takođe imali 5 slotova gde smo razgovarali sa gostima koji se bave još jednom pravljanjem videoigara. A sad ćemo pričati sa momkom koji je došao kod nas iz Rusije, koji je tu već neko vreme i koji se bavi nečime što se zove technical game design i ne samo to, već takođe UX design i player journey design. A pričat ćemo malo detaljnije sa njime o čemu se radi, ali da bismo to uradili, prebacit ćemo se na engleski jezik. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to PlayCon Winter. This with me here is a gentleman also known as Shell, but his name is Ivan Shelukhanov. So please, a round of applause for Ivan. For Shell. That's a very humble applause, but thank you. Ciao, Shell.
Ciao.
What's going on?
So. Yeah.
The thing about Shell also, which should be mentioned, is that he is also a great community driver here in Belgrade, Serbia. He gathers the Russian game development community into something called Game Dev Kucha, which is basically a monthly gathering of Russian game developers in Belgrade. And just recently we started doing these gatherings together, so the Russian and Serbian community is very well acquainted with each other right now, which is the reason why we have Shell as a guest today. And I
You're flattering me.
Sorry, what's that?
You're flattering me.
Of course I am. This is why I'm here. I would like to start off like in the middle of the point of this talk, because Shell works with video games in many different capacities, but the dominant capacities I've already mentioned are technical game design, user experience design, and player journey design. So let's dive straight into it. Shell, can you tell us what the concept of a technical game designer is?
Well, technical game designer is a designer who can not only create something on the paper, but also create that thing as a prototype or as a part of the product into the engine, and show it as a prototype to the rest of the team. Or it could be, if he has more skills with the programming, then he could make a part of the game by itself. So it's very close to the indie gaming itself, but it made as a part in a bigger companies.
So basically, from what I understood, is the main difference between a typical game designer and a technical game designer is that the technical game designer is capable of using game engines to create certain proof of concepts or designs.
Yeah, like yesterday we discussed with one of the technical game designers. So usually when you're making a technical game design, you create a paper design. Then
GDD or what?
Yeah, GDD, and then you scan through it. And then you switch to the programming side, and you try to create it, your game from that design. So you don't start from the programming part. You start from the
text,
for text, for schemes,
documents.
And documents. And you can't mix it up. So you should go step by step.
So why would a typical game designer then exist if we have technical game designers? I suppose the technical game designers are good because they cut the pre-production time, right? Instead of writing extensive documentation, here you have directly into the engine some sort of solution implemented.
Yeah, but it's not about that you cut out the documentation part. You still do it, but you can not only imagine in your mind, but you can put it into the not physical but digital form. So it's good option when you can do this, but some of technical game designers, they it's hard for them to separate that between the programming part, between coding and game design. So they start thinking about what they can do as a programmer, but not as what the game will be as a design mechanic and so on. So you should always be on both sides, but not at the same time.
Okay, so that sounds like something that's very time savvy in that regard. You can save a lot of time just by, okay, but still the documentation is required nevertheless.
I'm, I don't know, a apostle for documentation. If you don't have documentation in your game, in your product, that's a bad product.
Got it. Okay, cool. So what would be, okay, let's say you and I just now realize we're gonna make a game and you assume the role of a technical game designer. So what would you typically do at this stage? Like testing basic game loop, basic mechanics, or?
Yeah, so I test like basic things like control, camera, then basic mechanics like core loop, maybe some combat system that could be implemented. So I will start step by step. It's too loud, sorry. I will start step by step with the core things and understand how they will look like. Okay. As soon as I need some help from
either a programmer
from
or
engineers,
right?
Yeah,
engineers,
so,
got it.
Yeah, I will go to them and ask, guys, I need this, but it should be done like this, this, and this.
Right.
And that's it. So it's like proof of concept. So you make a proof of concept with your own hands, and you understand what is good solution and what is not. Because if you start from just from documentation, you have a lot of theories.
Right.
But you can't say which one will be the best of them, which one you should take as a core of your future game.
Got it. Okay. Before we move on, quick question. Can you hear us okay? We good? All right. Do you guys need anything? All right. Moving on. User experience design is something we've been hearing about in the last 15-ish years from the broader perspective of IT, right? And in software development, I suppose it's a completely different story from what it is in game development. So what does a typical user experience design in game development do? Let's say you, as a UX designer, what is it that you would do on a game project?
First of all, I should feel myself like a gamer in that part. So I should put myself on the gamer side and understand what he or she will feel at that part of the game, how they will see it, what feedback they will get from joypad, from sound, from like every part of the game, because UX designer, it's more like a director of the game. I think that one of the position that they called design director, I think something like this, but it's not in every company they have that. So, but the first stage, when you want to become a game director in the bigger companies, it starts with the UX. You need to be in some place narrative game designer, system game designer, and technical game designer will be too, because it's best for you to understand the needs of the player and their feelings and the atmosphere of the game. So it's like you should play the game from the start. So that's the UX. User experience. So, for example, the good BioShock. It's immersive scene. That immersive part is the result of the work of the UX game designer.
Okay, so what I wonder then is, why do we call it UX designer instead of PX designer? Because sometimes, like player experience, right? Because oftentimes the user thing sounds a little too cumbersome, right? Like people who play games are not really, I mean, technically they are users, right? But we don't call them users, we call them players. So this is just a remark. I'm wondering as to why wouldn't we call them PX?
That's a good question. First of all, because I think the game designer is a profession, like a big profession. in Europe, less in America, it's what about 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and if you look through the history, you will see like a lot of different sub-professions, sub-specialization for game designers emerged from the basic part.
Right.
So right now we just don't have that name established. I think that it will be in some time because there was nothing like a technical game designer 6-7 years ago. It was like designer who can program his own game. But right now it's different position. Like if you look into the into the job opportunities 7-8 years ago, you won't see anyone like a combo designer, only in American companies. But right now it's a common thing. They took a combo designer, encounter designer, boss designer, all for the different part of the game because the games are big and you need special designer for every part of that. So it will be the same with the UX designer because not every narrative designer can do this. They are mostly good writers, but they probably won't be a bad director for that. So they can describe it, but they can't make a picture, put it into the scene, and continue with that. So UX designer is somewhere as a part of the art direction, but with a big help with the from our department.
Got it. So there's a lot of naming here involved. Just a quick question again. Can you still hear us okay? Thank you. And now we're on to the third title that Shell bears on his back, which is player journey design or a player journey designer. Okay, now that we know about technical game design, now that we know more about UX design in games, what is this third lovely thing that we're talking about here?
That wrap that all up because the player journey is the result of the UX designer, results of the job of the UX designer, the technical game designer, the common or system game designer, general game designer. There are a lot of them. So what we got in the result, it will be user journey, how player will get from the start of the game till the end of the game, and what the story will be told for him through his experience, because almost every walkthrough will be different from other walkthrough. A little different experience. It depends on the game, but it will be not the same, at least. So that's the user journey, what we want to player feel at every step of the game. In what atmosphere around him, what feeling we want to get from him at this
from the player on their
at this level,
right,
and so on, so on, so on, and what he will feel in the final. If there are several endings, which of the ending will be plausible for him, which won't, how he will play through it, which way will lead to that result. So that's the player journey. So I can give you examples of that, but I don't know, should we spend some time for that? Oh no, for example, Mass Effect 3. Mass Effect, like you start from the first game, you can bring on to the second, to the third, the result of your deeds every time. And in the end, you will get the result of all what your character have done during all 3 games, and that a player journey from the first game till the last game, and that the user design that you should do during the planning stage, during the initial stage, if you're planning to make a 3 game, like that bigger scope.
Okay, so Mass Effect is a megalomaniac scope because we have 4 Mass Effects so far. Remind me, Mass Effect 3 and then Andromeda, if I'm correct.
Andromeda, right now they're making next one, but I don't think that at least 3 of them connected together, and at least 3 of them have
a single user journey all throughout the
single user journey with one character.
Got it. Okay. We needed to understand better about what these things are in order to further understand what exactly is that Shell does. So it's a very multidisciplinary, meta-disciplinary, if you want, occupation, which is a product not only of working with games, but also working with many various occupations during your career. And we'll hear from Shell what it is that he had done through his career to achieve the abilities and skills to actually be able to delve into all this madness he just told us about. So let's go backwards. All right. So your latest experience was with Exola.
Yep.
Working on something called metasites. We can just go through it and just let us know what it is, what's metasites and what it is that you did.
In a simple words and simple description. So imagine two things: MMO.
Okay.
And remember the film or maybe book if you read it, Ready Player One.
Ready Player One. Yeah. Okay.
So if you put it together, I think split in different levels, you will get something that will resemble the metasite. So it's a virtual area where people can live. So it's something between the, I don't know, so...
We talked about Second Life as an example.
Yeah, Second Life.
I don't know how many of you remember Second Life. That's a thing that's, at this point, I mean about 20 years old or something.
Oh, yeah.
It's basically a virtual space where your avatar exists and interacts with other people. So this is more or less...
That's more or less, and also you can take as an example.
Okay.
Fortnite with its islands, Roblox with the different worlds, and so on and so on. So every multi-user experience that will have different areas where you can differently behave yourself, that will give you an option as a part of the meta site. So it's just the next step of the evolving of the internet. We started with the boards, then we go to the sites, then we go to the shops, then we go to the through the forums, then we go to the like a bigger areas through the games, and at the games, at the basis for them comes the next part, the meta sites, metaverse, and all that connected to the metaverse. So meta sites is a part of the metaverse.
That's what I wanted to ask. Right. Okay. Right. So basically, if you have metaverse as a top-level hierarchical thing, right? Metasites is somewhere below.
So that's a bigger concept, metaverse.
Right. Okay.
But the current product was metasites.
Oh, it just hit me actually. I'm not sure I fully understood it in the meantime, but yeah. Okay. So it's hierarchical. Okay. So it's smaller subdivision of metaverse. Got it. Okay. And what was that you did on this particular project as a technical game designer? What role did you assume?
As a technical game designer, as a senior game designer, as a producer, the latest part.
Okay, here we go. What else did you do in your life? So that's 4. Give me more. Come on. You can do this.
No, during that product, that's probably all. But during my life, it was a long life.
You didn't program. You didn't do any engineering. It's just about
only prototype. And so during the meta sites, I do prototype and several features just to check my theories. And then we polished that to the final product. I created a lot of game design documentation.
Oh, okay.
Like with a core thing, because you need to create for that part. It's not like a final product. It's just a SDK for the other who want to create their own meta site. So think about it like a constructor, and you need to design the basic, the core of that, that will be used later by others. And you need to keep that in mind while you designing things. So you don't need to get in any specific part, because that will cut out opportunities for them, for those who will use it later.
So it's basically a B2B tool?
No, it's also a B2B and B2C.
Okay.
So we have an areas where there will be only B2C, so where you explore it, communicating with others, looking around, maybe playing some games.
Typical MMO, literally.
Yeah, typical MMO, typical social area. And there will be B2B parts when you can go shopping. So, for example, there could be this place could be put into the metaverse, and you can go to any stage, look through the games, try some of the equipment here,
right.
Some peripheral, and also buy it.
Right.
That's a B2B part. When you go somewhere, explore it, examine it, and decide if you want to buy it or not. And then it starts with a common shopping, so it will be delivery, when, where, and so on, so on, so on.
So it's not really game development, but a little. It looks like game development. It uses the assumptions and the general premise of game development, but it's not offered as a game, which is probably clear enough because I remember a couple of years ago, everybody was continuously talking about metaverse this, metaverse that. So I guess it makes sense if you picture Fortnite plus Second Life, because I remember Second Life was mostly used for meetings. Have you ever used Second Life?
Just for the work purpose. So
for work.
I wasn't working there. So when I need to explore what else we have, I put myself in Second Life, walk a bit around, and realize that it good sides, its bad sides, but right now we have totally different product.
Right.
As a meta side. So it's mostly of the similar experience on the different devices.
Okay.
Because with Second Life, you should have a really good computer, a really good something. Yeah.
This is just getting started.
Yeah.
Holy
Let's
God.
go. Yeah, so you need to have a really good computer. You need to have a really good something to explore your Second Life areas, Second Life levels.
Yeah.
And everything can go wrong with that. But with Metaverse, we started differently, and it has something in between the streaming technology and WebGL technology.
Okay.
Different parts utilize different things.
Got it.
So it's like the next step. We left Second Life in the past, let's say we have a Third Life up in front of us.
Well, we're gonna need a lot of lives to catch up. So, but okay, that's Shell's like most recent experience, but also you have been developing games for a while now, and can you tell us something a bit more and about your roles about game development in your past experience? What's maybe the key takeaways? What's the key projects, the key teams? The most exciting, I don't know, thing you've ever done in game development, I guess.
It's not a computer game, so I think most exciting during my work was two things. First one, when we make live-action role-play games, it's something between the theater and event.
Okay.
You still need to make a lot of game design things for that. You need to make mechanics for the players who will be there. So part of that is a cosplay. You can mix it all together and understand what it is. And what we made, we mixed up and make it good. The Matrix universe and Lord of the Rings universe.
Lord of the what universe?
Matrix.
Matrix and?
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Got it. Sorry, I'm a little deaf. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So that was one of the excitement thing that I have been doing.
Where did you do this? How did it come up?
I made it back in Moscow woods, you can say.
Moscow woods.
Yeah. So it's not far from Moscow. It's like 100 kilometers. It's not far from Moscow.
Well, live-action role-playing people love woods. We know that.
Yeah.
Especially the epic fantasy thing, but the Matrix doesn't really fit the woods, though.
Yeah, because that was like a lower layer of that thing, because players were playing something in Lord of the Rings, but they have lower level where it was described and it was it has a logic as a matrix that was behind all that happened inside. So if you remember the...
Like Assassin's Creed, basically. Well,
yeah, it's basic, the Assassin's Creed, but it was something when the only first Assassin's Creed was realized, it was, I think, 2006?
Yeah, with Ezio. Was Ezio the first Assassin's Creed, no?
No, Ezio the second one.
The second. Who's the first?
Altair,
well, whatever it's pronounced. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, so, and we made it, we created, there was players on different layers, so we have like else as a revolution part, we have Nazguls as agents, we have Mordor as it was a universe, so it was a part, it was inside it, so
Right.
that I can talk a long about it because
What was your role in this project? This is why
I was a lead game designer so I started with a middle game designer and in the end I was one who was handling all the stuff around.
How many people were involved in this thing? It's LARP, so I guess it was pretty massive.
Yeah, it was I think 300 people.
No way.
Yeah. So and 3 days long, and I think there was only 30 people as designers and technical support people who handled all the stuff that should be done at that event.
So was this, I guess because you started as a media game designer and then ended up as a lead, this was a project that was a commercial project, or was it a pet project of someone, or?
That's a kind of project. They are crowdfunding. So you made an idea, you made something that describe it, go to the people who will play it and say, okay guys, do you want to play it?
Okay.
There will be this and this. And they bring you money, and if you have the amount of sum you need, you made that game. The more people come, the more fun stuff you can do.
Okay, I got it. Sounds pretty cute to me. Folks, it's a good timing maybe to check if there are any questions or discussions with Shell. Going once, twice, more for me. All right then, let's talk about your past experience, because now we have an idea about Shell working with video games, with stuff beyond video games, but also not really video games, but games, I guess live action role-playing games. Now let's talk about your involvement with games, but not from a development side. So what's very interesting about Shell is that he has a very extensive history in journalism in video games in general, games in general, actually, not just video games. Tell us something about it. Let's start with was it called Wii U Pro?
That's the latest one.
That's the latest, yeah.
Yeah, not the latest, somewhere in the middle. So
okay.
The first magazine where I started, it was a Mir Fantastic and Igromane. It's two of the biggest magazines in Russia. I think still there are.
Igromania?
Igromania.
Mir Fantastic.
Mir Fantastic.
Okay. The World of Fantasy, right?
Yeah, the World of Fantasy. So
okay.
the World of Fantasy is a magazine about all that that related to the games, to the movies, to the books, and
pop
all
culture.
the stuff. So pop culture, yeah,
right.
It's about that. Igromania mostly about the games.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
So you joined those two magazines about when?
About 2005.
2005.
Yeah,
oh,
5.
5. Okay, that was almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago,
wow.
something around that. Yeah.
So you started writing for these two. Was that your beginning in the world of journalism?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just bought Igromania magazine. I looked through the vacancies. They have none. Then I looked at the site and saw, okay, they're looking for the editor and author. That was Mir Fantastic. So I bought the magazine and just tried myself. And I think in the 2 weeks I was working on the next issue that was planned for May or 2005. And what you need to know about the 2005 in May in Moscow, we got a blackout in April, in the latest April. So it was one day I was making 20 or 20 kilometers to my work, to the office to get there.
So I don't remember this exactly, but there was like a major blackout in Moscow at that point. Like the whole city was powerless.
Half of the city. There was
half of the city.
There was joking like half of the city were living like in a haven, and half of the city were like living as primal people.
For 24 hours.
Almost for 20, at least for 16 hours for sure.
Oh man, okay, that's a lot for a huge city as Moscow is. So, okay, and after that, what do we have next? We said Igromania, Mir Fantastiki.
Yeah, Mir Fantastiki.
And then
I have a little gap, so in my career in journalism, and I back there with I don't remember when we had Wii U. 2012, I think.
It's the PS Vita. It's the PS Vita period, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
About
so
2012.
About that time, I was doing some work and reading some online portals and found one that was quite good, but they lack an editor hand. So I just got through that very long, very good article, but it had, I don't know, it had like 3 mistakes in a word, just one word, so it's only grammar mistakes, and there was like a lot of more. And I just instantly wrote the owner of that site, okay guys, okay man, I want to be part of the team. I want to write for this portal because it's interesting and I like that direction of that game of Nintendo games and the way that they made with the V. And I also want to make it better. I want to be an editor there. And that's how I started with the Wii U. So I think 2 months later, I was one of the big editors there. And in 4 years, I took it under my wing and started as editor-in-chief.
Oh, so was that your first editor-in-chief position ever?
Yeah.
Okay, so that we're talking about the site that still is.
No, not anymore. It shifted to 4 buttons later because Wii U was mostly about Nintendo games.
Right.
And at that time, it was a big failure with a Nintendo 3DS and new Nintendo 3DS because they made it bad. So it wasn't so popular, and a lot of our guys in my team, they wanted to make it bigger. They want to write about different platforms. So we decided to make some rebranding and to make bigger
scope.
Bigger scope.
Right,
yeah,
because I was wondering why was only Wii. By the way, it was Wii U.Pro. And why was it only about Wii U? I mean, I understand there was a community around this interesting console, the first console that's both handheld and standalone, I guess, but...
Yeah, but it was the idea of the previous owner and the guy who started that. So he was a community driver back then, and he wanted to make to create a community around the Nintendo, because back in Russia we didn't have any community. We didn't have Nintendo representative there. So we have like a grace teams, but no one official. And with the Wii U, there was first Nintendo representative there, official Nintendo representative in Russia. We made contact with them, and we were one of the biggest portal about Nintendo for I think for 4 or 5 years.
Like for Nintendo in general, even though it was Wii U.Pro, it was more about Nintendo.
Nintendo in general. We started like a Wii U Pro. It was
right. Gotcha.
It called in Russian it's Pro Wii U. So it was like a wordplay.
Got it. Oh man. Okay, and then we also have one more website that you used to work for, webzine, right? 4buttons.ru.
Yeah.
Can you tell us something about that?
So that was I started. I continued to work as the editor-in-chief. That was a rebranding for Wii U. Then we started to write about the Xbox, PlayStation games, about PC games, about everything. Our theme shifted more to the what makes games good. So that were I think my idea of the game design future profession as a profession started, because I started to decompile games to the core. Why these games are fun, and what makes that games fun.
Oh, to decompile, you mean like analyze? You didn't decompile them in an engineering sense?
Yeah. So it's decompiling the idea.
Okay. He's not a hacker. It's fine. Okay.
Yeah. So I decompiled, by the way, several of the board game application, but that later.
You had an opportunity to not say that, but yeah. Now it's on the record. So.
Yeah, that's on the record.
Okay.
So yeah, and I had a great community that worked on 4 buttons, and each of them they tried to find their way to talk about the games, to examine the games, to get a contact with the audience, and give the audience the real understanding of the games. Not about that, okay, we get that code from the publisher, and we need to make a really good review of that game.
Oh.
No, it's not like that. You get a card from publisher, but you have a reputation that you're writing about the game. If the game is crap, then just say it. It's crappy game.
I love that. So did you do that?
Of course.
Did you? So you were totally cool with people writing game reviews, going like, "Yeah, it's a crappy game.
Yeah.
Got 0 out of 10."
Yeah.
Oh man, I missed that time.
Me too.
Awesome. Okay, but besides being a journalist, Shell also did several other things within video games, which is very interesting from the perspective of language. And Shell, you mentioned just recently that you also translated some board games and tabletop games for a Russian publisher for almost 3 years, maybe even more than 3 years. So you translated games as well, and now I'm wondering, what were the languages you were translating into? Between English and Russian?
English and Russian, that common.
Okay.
But when you work on some games that not originally were made in English, you try to find the roots in the origin language they were created in. So, but mostly, English and Russian. So you need to take the English one, go through it, and understand how to make localize it to the Russian-speaking community, because they have a lot of jokes, they have a lot of everything that's understandable inside the culture, but that can't be understandable inside the Russian culture.
The spirit of message needs to be also conveyed in a different language.
Yeah.
So what I wonder here is, there was this Russian publisher, and you worked for them for 3 years as a translator. So you were full-time translating tabletop and board games. Part-time.
Part-time.
How many
I
games?
work 8 hours on my primary work, and then I work 8 hours on translating the game, because I understand that I need to do this. I want to do that as.
So wait, but you said part-time, right?
That's a part-time, but that was my choice.
You still did 8 hours, nevertheless.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were very highly driven about the whole thing. How many games have you translated in the course of 3 years?
I think.
Do you remember?
10 for sure.
10.
I can remember the biggest of them, but there were also several smaller ones, which if I saw their names, I say, oh yeah, I translated that, but I couldn't recall all of them right now, I think.
That's interesting. Can you name one title maybe that would? I personally know nothing about board games, but can you name one key title from your from the time you used to translate these games into Russian?
The key title was the last title I translated. It was like the peak of my career as a translator, because I decided to quit late after that. So it was Mansion of Madness, 2nd edition, based on the Gord Lovecraft, if you know that. So I really love Lovecraft, and when I need when I translated that, I was needed to get all the translation that company already had.
Oh, they already had it. Okay.
Already had.
Okay.
Make the list of all translated words.
Right.
And
keys, basically, right?
Keys. Yeah.
I mean, the phrases, words,
phrases, words. Yeah. What they used inside the translation so far. So it was like a big Excel document with all the stuff there. So it's this definition, this translation, this game, and this game, and this game, and you choose. And it's not only about the words, it's about phrases, about the names, about everything.
Right.
And then you make the best of them into the final translation, because those who will play that game, Mansion of Madness, they have already played the previous games based on the Lovecraft universe, which were translated by that.
By the same team.
Not the same team, but the same company.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but different translator. And then you need to translate it the same, so there won't be any difference for them. So it's working with it's like you're working with a legacy GDD from someone.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, that's a very good way to put it.
Yeah.
Besides translating games, tabletops, and board games, you also did and still do marketing and PR consulting. Can you tell us something about your involvement with these fields, and how far does that go in your career?
Well, PR didn't go far.
Oh, okay.
So when I was choosing where to go, there was PR career, which didn't make for me, and the second one was game design. So I chose game design. About marketing, I have a long experience. For 10 years I was making marketing for my own company back in Russia.
Okay.
Well, since then I don't really like something that combined with the monetization and so on. So I understand how it's going, why it should be, what the good, bad parts of that, but really that's not my thing anymore.
Okay.
About the consultant, so it's my nature. As one profession in my career, I have a background of university, not a professor, but have a course of Photoshop, I think. Photoshop and video editing. That was the start. Later and now I'm mentoring junior and middle game designers, and not also only game designers, but anyone who need a help in the game development field.
Yep.
So I help them, I consult them with the games, I consult them with the career. I did mentoring just to reach some of the points they want to reach. So I think that's a good thing, because you need to have a helping hand in our profession.
Okay. So it seems that if you want to delve deep into what you do, you really shouldn't be exactly focused narrowly on solely developing a game, working in an engine, and so on and so forth. I mean, Shell does have, at this point, more than 20 years of experience within the field. However, having skills in video editing and graphic design to a certain extent, working in journalism, some sort of marketing and PR, doing game design, and so on and so forth, is what makes you a highly multidisciplinary person that's very easy and flexible to integrate into a game development environment. So I guess Shell is the guy who you should be calling for your needs, if there are any. So with that said, I guess we are pretty much out of time, so it would be a good idea. You can catch Shell off stage for some questions. Shell, is that okay with you? Are you going to stick around? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm still around.
Super. Catch him off stage. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, this was game designer, basically, Ivan Shelukhanov, so-called Shell. Round of applause, please. Thank you so very much for sticking with us.